Happy December the 2nd. I'm Brian Houston, all dressed up, as you can tell, formal wear tonight for the Cowboys Report as we are recapping and kind of catching up after a little bit of a holiday break and recapping the Cowboys' nasty loss to the Carolina Panthers last Thanksgiving Day. We decided we wouldn't just immediately overreact. We'd wait 5 days and then overreact to all that took place on Thanksgiving Day with the Cowboys and with Tony Romo. And with us to do that from Rattle and Hump Sports, as this is a Rattle and Hump Sports freecast, Matthew Postins, the Cowboys beat writer for Rattle and Hump Sports. Happy Thanksgiving. You look like you put on 15 pounds. Congratulations.
Oh, geez, thanks. I tried to watch what I ate, but
It's all lighting.
you know, I felt like I lost a few pounds watching
Oh,
that Cowboys game because I didn't want to eat.
well, no, that's called binging and purging, is what that is. You eat and then you vomit after watching a game like that. That's basically what that
Mm.
game was like. I hate
Yeah,
to
it
be
was,
graphic, but that's why we do this on the internet.
and not in person.
There,
Yes.
there are no censorship laws on the internet, so keep that in mind, okay? Um, let's talk a little bit about that, Matthew. 33 to 14. Tony Romo, we had talked about the fact that the man had not played for 7 weeks. He showed some rust in the win when he came back, and then that rust really exposed itself in the two interceptions he threw in the ball. What was it, two or three interceptions? I can't even remember anymore. But
Actually, three. He actually threw
yeah,
three,
okay.
and I would
It,
say two of those interceptions were clearly on him.
no question, and no defense for it, other than the fact that I do believe that was definitely two things. Carolina's really, really good on defense. Okay,
Hmm.
first of
They
all,
are.
let's give credit where credit is due, and secondly, he's just really rusty, and they were asking a lot even before he was injured to bring him back and expect a high quality performance from him for the rest of the season, at least in these first couple of weeks. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, he definitely pressed on those two interceptions that were returned for touchdowns. Definitely throws he should not have made. The third one was the second pick by Luke Kuechly, and that was just a great defensive play. I mean, if Romo had put that ball a little bit higher, I think Witten would have caught it. But just a great defensive play on Kuechly's part. But he made some bad decisions. I mean, we know good Tony, and for the last couple of years. We've known good Tony most of the time, and he was bad Tony on Thursday, and I think even he would agree with that. He took full responsibility for it after the game with his left arm in a sling, saying he has to be better. He has to be better than that. He can't get put his team behind the eight ball like that. And even if he had continued to play in that game, it got very seriously. He could have brought the Cowboys back.
Now, again, you can't turn the ball over in the NFL and expect to win, and you certainly can't do it against a team that's undefeated and looks like they may be the best of the best in the NFC. So they were digging out of a ditch the whole day and couldn't get it done. And then to make matters worse, then he goes down for the second time this year with a rebroken collarbone, which
Yeah.
leads to all the speculation about um, whether they should have ever brought him back in the first place.
Well, I really don't have any disagreement with bringing him back. Having been around the NFL enough, when you're a player and you're medically cleared to play, you're going to play. I mean, unless there's just some sort of discomfort that's going to keep you from being effective, or the coaches just aren't comfortable with it. They cleared Tony Romo medically. They said his injury was healed. He was going to play. He had made that very clear. The team had made that very clear. I don't think they gave him 8 weeks to heal. That's right around the time frame for that sort of an injury. But you know as well as I do, having been around sports enough, anytime you've injured something, there is always a risk that you're going to re-injure it, no matter how well healed that injury is, um, no matter how far back that injury was, there's always a chance you're going to re-injure it because the bone is no longer what it was before it was broken. So, I don't have any qualms with when they brought him back or how they brought him back. Certainly, he was rusty. It was a really unfortunate hit. It was a clean hit. Thomas Davis really didn't, uh, take him down hard to the ground or anything like that. It was a clean hit, in my opinion. It was unfortunate because it occurred right in the spot where you don't want it to occur. He re-injured it and he's out for the year. If the thing is, I think Romo did an interview, I think right before the Miami game, and I remember somebody had asked him if he had been able to play any earlier, if there was no restriction on him in terms of being on the short-term IR, could he have played before the Miami game? And he kind of said it would have been really risky, but that he felt comfortable going into that Miami game because he'd been medically cleared, ready to go. So I don't have a lot of qualms with bringing him back up. Now, if they had been like 1-8 or 1-9 going into that Miami game, then you could make a case for that. But they were still in the race before the Miami game, and when they won the Miami game, they were still in the race. And technically, they're still in the race. But I don't really have any issues with how they brought him back personally.
No, and I will say I completely agree with you. If the medical doctors for the team cleared him to play, then I had no problem with him coming back on the field. I mean, that's what you do in the NFL.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the guy's 35 years old. It's the third time he's broken that collarbone. It's going to be what it is. I think it makes it one of these things where it looks like it could be re-injured on a regular basis. So, um, bottom line is he's out for the year.
Yep.
And so, as far as mathematically, amazingly enough, the Cowboys are still not eliminated. But do they have any hope at all?
No, 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 no,
Okay, well, it's been
no.
nice. Have a good evening.
Yeah, yeah. Big analysis on my part. No, they don't have a chance. And I'll tell you why. I mean, first of all, they didn't win a game with Matt Castle at quarterback. They didn't win a game with either of their backups at quarterback. That's not necessarily Matt Castle's fault or anything like that, but that's just how it is. This team's going to have a bout of confidence or a downgrade in confidence with Matt Castle at quarterback, no matter what they tell you. Second, the schedule is pretty brutal. They've got three December road games, all outdoors, all in the north, against Washington, Green Bay, and Buffalo. And I say maybe they win one of those games. They get the Redskins and the Jets at home. Maybe they win one of those games. I'm looking at them as a 5-11 team right now. The defense is not what we thought it was going to be. I think we all thought it was going to be a lot better. It's not. In fact, I think you could actually argue that Greg Hardy, in full now, in nearly 2 months on the roster, really hasn't had the impact that we were expecting him to have in terms of total sacks and in terms of helping to create other opportunities for his teammates. They've really only mustered a good pass rush in two of those games. Um, you know, they're just in a spot right now. I mean, guys got hurt, guys have underperformed. Things have not gone the way they hoped when they drew it up at the beginning of the season, and sometimes that's how it works in the NFL. You look at the Green Bay Packers right now; they were 6-0. They're now 7-4, I believe. They've lost four of their last 5 games. They lost Jordy Nelson at the beginning of the year. They were able to find a way to compensate for that, but now they're having issues with it. And Aaron Rodgers is a little banged up. That's the way the league works this time of year. The Panthers are probably the healthiest team in the NFL right now. And that's one of the big reasons why they're 11-0. So, the spot the Cowboys are in with the personnel they have and the schedule they have in front of them, I think they'll be lucky to win 5 games. It appears as if I might have lost Brian on this end. We'll give him a minute, see if he comes back. In the meantime, I'm Matthew Postins. This is a Rattle and Hum Sports Spreecast. We're talking about the Dallas Cowboys about a week after their 33-14 loss to the Carolina Panthers, a game in which Tony Romo was injured and is now out for the year after re-injuring his collarbone. We've been talking about the obvious impact that will have on the offense and whether or not the Cowboys have any chance of getting to 500 this year, which seems extremely unlikely with them being 3-8 right now, 5 games to go. Looking at road games against Buffalo and Green Bay and the Washington Redskins, who amazingly enough are now tied for the lead in the NFC East. And if the season ended today, they would actually win the division because they have the tiebreaker over the New York Giants because they beat the Giants on Sunday. So uh, very interesting and very mediocre division in the NFC East this year as we wait for Brian to come back on this Spreecast. I'm sure we'll be talking a little bit more about Tony Romo and some of the comments that Jerry Jones has made over the past few days, including the fact that he believes Tony Romo can be very successful over the next 4 to 5 years as the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, about how he gave
Okay.
himself an F uh, for backup quarterback as Brian is ready to pop up on our screen. There he is.
So
I've
sorry.
been
I
holding down the
completely.
fort.
You did a great job. I just completely bailed and tried a totally different browser. I apologize for leaving you hanging.
No
All right.
problem.
Obviously you've catch me up so I don't re-ask the same questions for you.
No, I think I kind of just recapped what we've done so far, and I think we're up to what I think was going to be your next logical question, which was Jerry Jones's comments this week about Tony Romo.
Yes. Once again, Jerry opens his mouth and idiocy comes flying out when he talked
Hmm.
on his radio show on the Fan in Dallas, and basically said that Romo had at least another 5 good years in him, and he expected to have high quality quarterback play. Is that basically the gist? Am I getting it about right? In paraphrase, that he
That
expected
that's
to
the
get 5 more really good years from him?
that's the gist of it. But if you go back and you look at the quote, it's very interesting. And I'm someone who likes to parse words on occasion. Jerry Jones
No.
didn't Jerry Jones didn't explicitly say that he expected to get great quarterback play out of Tony Romo for 4 or 5 years. I mean, that was the implication. But what he actually said was, I expect to have great quarterback play for the next 4 to 5 years. He didn't include Tony Romo in that comment. And he backed that comment up with another comment about how they're going to be out looking for, obviously, to find talent behind Tony Romo. So it makes me wonder if in his mind, I know everybody obviously believes he's sitting there saying he thinks Tony Romo is going to play at Tony Romo's level for the next 4 to 5 years. But it makes me wonder if in the back of his mind, he's thinking, I gotta go out and get some talent behind this guy
You
just in case
think?
this happens again. And if that's the case, then finally, light bulb moment after 15, 20 years of Troy Aikman and Tony Romo and not having good backups behind these guys on a regular basis, that would be fantastic for Cowboys fans if that light bulb finally came on.
The amazing thing to me, Matthew, number one, yes, absolutely, I totally agree with what you're saying, and for some reason, I'm having all kinds of difficulties here. But the fact that he is still on the active roster right now, what the hell is that about? I mean, the guy's gone, and they actually believe that he actually could come back before the season's over in a lost year where there's no chance they're going to make the playoffs. I
Oh,
mean, what are we talking about here?
oh, but there's a 4.5% chance, according to some statistical
Uh,
analysis that
you know what?
ESPN
I
did.
could be Miss America tomorrow too. Sure, yeah, if you say so. That's lunacy.
It is, but I think until the Cowboys are completely eliminated from contention, mathematically speaking, I would suspect the Cowboys will keep him on the active roster. Now, they are activating Kellen Moore to back up Matt Castle, but I did not see who they are either moving to injured reserve or releasing to move Kellen Moore to the active roster. So I think that's just we talked a lot about we talked a lot about how this season looks lost. Well, remember last year when the season wasn't lost and the team was playing well, and they put Sean Lee on injured reserve, at the beginning of the season, which means you can't activate him the rest of the year. Well, Lee actually could have played during the postseason had he been available. Obviously, the Cowboys weren't expecting Lee's rehab to go so well, and I think on some level they may not have been expecting to make the playoffs. So I think maybe that's a lesson learned on their part, and they're just going to keep Romo on that active roster until mathematically there's no way they can make the postseason.
Well, and my reaction to this is the same as what you're about to see from Jason Garrett here. Well, doggone it, naturally, nothing ever works when I want it to. But Jason Garrett basically had one of these looks on his face in a picture I was going to post, where he's going, what is this about? I mean, it's crazy what's happening with this football team, and the idea that the Cowboys are going to have excellent quarterback play. There's the picture. That's my reaction to what Jerry Jones basically said. I mean, Look at that. Does that look like a guy that thinks that the seasons that they've got anywhere to go this year?
No, it really doesn't. It looks like a very frustrated head coach, frankly. Um, yeah, and I'm with you there. I saw the quote from Jones the other day, and Jones actually got a little frustrated with his hosts of that show in the morning here in Dallas, and note that that's on the flagship station. So those are hosts who are usually typically pretty friendly to Jerry. Not that they were disrespectful or anything like that. I actually didn't hear the program, but Jerry doesn't usually get frustrated on his own radio show because he uh, usually doesn't get those kind of questions. But he's obviously frustrated with the situation and obviously frustrated hearing people talk about the backup quarterback situation. Well, he admitted that's his fault. He finally admitted that that is his issue, his problem. He's got to fix it. He's got to correct it, and that's going to be a big part of what they're going to be doing this offseason. Now, whether that means re-signing Matt Castle, going out and finding another veteran, going out and finding a young guy in the draft, or a young guy via trade, it's hard to know what that is. If you read my Tony Romo first and 10 piece up on rnhsports.com, you know that I'm kind of a proponent for bringing Castle back on a 1 or 2 year deal to be the immediate backup, and going out and drafting a guy this year to watch and learn for the next couple of years. So eventually he can be that backup, the immediate backup to Tony Romo, and eventually hopefully be good enough to take Romo's place when Romo's ready to retire.
Well, the one thing we do know is, at least the last time I looked, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Cowboys, if they were drafting today, would be drafting in the top five, probably at 3 or 4 at this point. Is that correct?
I'd have to go back and look at the records after this weekend's play, but I know going into the games on Sunday they were sitting on five at the number 5 pick, so it's probably no worse than number 5 at this point.
All right, so there are quarterbacks. There are only about 4 or 5 quarterbacks that you would call pro prospects, really good pro prospects. Would the Cowboys draft a quarterback in the first round based on what's happened this year and based on their draft position if, let's say, the guy from Memphis was available at that moment?
Well, obviously a lot of factors will go into that, but you have to sit there and wonder if picking a quarterback in the first round is a good play. It's about a 50-50 proposition taking a quarterback in the first round as to whether or not that quarterback's actually going to pan out or not. Obviously, it worked out well for the Cowboys 25 years ago when they took Troy Aikman first overall, but they don't have a lot of experience taking quarterbacks in the draft, frankly, in the Jerry Jones era. They only drafted 4. The other 3 are Bill Musgrave, who had a cup of coffee with the Cowboys and ended up starting 1 game in the NFL. Quincy Carter, of course, who started for a couple of years and was that infamous second-round pick by Jerry Jones, and Stephen McGee, the quarterback out of A&M, who started 1 game for the Cowboys. So not a lot of experience on their end in drafting and developing quarterbacks. But when you look at the situation, when you look at Romo's age and his health, and you look at what they have in the roster, I think it almost demands that they take a quarterback, if not in the first round, certainly in the first 2 rounds. And you mentioned Paxton Lynch, the kid from Memphis. If he decides to come out, he's certainly going to be a first round guy. CBS, I think, had 2 other guys ranked as first round picks. Connor Cook out of Michigan State, a guy that I'm very high on. I
Yep.
really like. He runs a pro style offense, and he runs it a lot like he's a very cerebral quarterback, good arm, understands the offense, makes good decisions, doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And then there's um, Jared Goff. If
Goff,
Jared Goff
Goff,
comes out,
yeah.
yeah, he will be a first round pick as well. But there's a couple of solid second round guys out there too, like Carson Wentz from North Dakota State, and of that ilk. You can find a solid quarterback in the second round. Seahawks proved that with Russell Wilson in the third round a few years ago. So there's options out there. I don't think there are a lot of trade options for young quarterbacks out there, frankly. After having looked at what's out there, I don't think there are a lot of options. The one guy that kind of sticks out to me is a kid named Taylor Heinicke, who's now a third stringer at Minnesota and really doesn't really look like he has any chance of being a starter or even a backup in Minnesota with Teddy Bridgewater there. So that might be somebody to trade a late round pick for. But the time is now if you're the Cowboys, in my opinion. I don't know if Jerry Jones agrees with everybody or not. It sounds like he agrees with everybody, but the time is now to start coming up with a succession plan for Tony Romo, because this whole notion that Tony Romo has 4 or 5 great years ahead of him is really just bunk. I mean, It's Jerry
Hmm.
Jones sitting on a beach on Fantasy Island with Ricardo Montalban waiting for Chara to show up. I mean, that's about how likely it is that Romo plays at a high level for 5 more years.
I totally agree with you on that. That leads to the next question because the Cowboys now with 3 wins, Romo gone, the chances are really good that they may not win another football game this year. I don't see any sure win. I don't see anybody on the schedule that they're going to be favored against the rest of the year. If they can't win at home,
Nope.
then they're going to go to Green Bay and get crushed, even though Green Bay is not what Green Bay used to be.
No, they're not playing well
Um,
right now at
yeah,
all.
I fully expect they'll get crushed on Monday night against the Redskins, who are a very mediocre football team, but may end up winning this stupid division. So the question becomes, and you've seen the argument to tank or not to tank. And when I say tank, everybody says just give up and don't give any effort. I'm not meaning that, but there are a lot of guys on this team that are just basically right now taking up special team spots that you need to find out whether these guys can play. Are the Cowboys going to do that though? Are they going to put in guys that they drafted that really have only seen special teams play and give those guys a chance to play? Is it going to be a prolonged exhibition season from this point forward or after Monday night?
That's a really good question, and it's an interesting philosophical discussion that I hear coaches and GMs, you know, talk about from time to time. Usually, when you're doing what you're talking about, it's a team in a rebuilding process, and it's a prolonged rebuilding process. It's usually like a full year. This was a team that Jerry Jones really felt like was going to be a contender this year, and it's completely fallen apart. That said, you've got a group of third year guys and fourth year guys who are going to be up for contracts in the offseason that you've got to find out some things about. You know, guys like Kyle Wilber, guys like Terrence Williams, guys like Morris Claiborne, guys who are going into walk years of their contracts. Um, I don't know if they'll play them more, honestly, because I think that for Jerry Jones, there's a competitive streak, and the same goes for Jason Garrett, where they simply want to win. And that's why I say 5 wins, because I think they'll split with the Redskins because it's the Redskins, and that's just what the Cowboys seem to do. They seem to find a way to split with them most years, and I think they'll beat the Jets at home. For some reason, I think the Jets will just won't play well that night, and the Cowboys will end up with a nice win toward the end of the year. But in terms of going to Green Bay and going to Buffalo, they're not going to win those games. And I think there's a certain case to be made for letting younger players play over guys like Greg Hardy. But God, can you imagine Greg Hardy sitting on a bench, not getting his reps, not getting his opportunities to get his bonus money that
Well, they need to
that
cut
I
him
think
anyway.
he feels he's entitled to over a guy
They
like the kid from Iowa State, blanking on his name, but who's played some
well,
nice football. And the Cowboys would love to find out, what more he has, frankly. There's a case to be made for that. I just don't see the Cowboys completely tanking to do it. It's not going to be a 76ers situation where they come right out and say, we're losing to get a better draft pick. It's going to be we're going to let the chips fall where they may and see what happens, but more than likely, we're only going to win a couple more games.
Well, I mean, for instance, they need to be putting Randy Gregory on the field for 80% of the plays right now to find out if this guy can actually play or not. I think they ought to cut Greg Hardy at this point. How many games have they won with him? One, and that was when Romo came back. That was when Romo
Yep,
came back. That's it.
one game,
They've not won
one
another
game.
ball. So what if that's your difference maker? He hadn't made a difference. Why keep him? Why keep the headache?
I'm with you there. I just don't think
I mean,
Jerry Jones is.
well, I understand, but I mean, really,
Yeah.
he's not made the difference. Uh, does he give him a pass rush? Yes, but has it made a difference in terms of one loss record? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
It's not done a
No,
bit of good.
it
So
hasn't. But the one thing you worry about there when you start just cutting players like that is you worry about depth. Yeah, you want to give Randy Gregory more reps, absolutely. And I think there's a creative way you can do that. Using him on the left, on the right, on the left side a little bit. Letting Jeremy Mincy sit a little bit. There's a way you can get him the reps he needs to get. But if you start cutting guys like Greg Hardy or guys at other positions, then you're losing depth. And if you start incurring more injuries toward the end of the year, that becomes an issue. The last thing you want is to have enough attrition to where guys get hurt because they're getting really fatigued toward the end of the year. You want to find a balance between giving guys like Randy Gregory the reps they need to start building toward next year and making sure you don't give them too many reps to the point where they get hurt or bang themselves up to where they can't have a good off season. There's a balance you've got to strike. Um, I'm not a fan of Hardy. I'm not a fan of Hardy, but at this point, he's good depth. He's good depth because he can take up the reps that you need so that everybody gets balanced out and nobody gets too fatigued and injuries don't happen unnecessarily.
Okay, I don't necessarily agree with that because I think you can get depth. I mean, depth is just another body, basically. Okay, and basically that's what their defense looks like right now, anyway. Just bodies out there. They've played better. But they're not going to win any ball games this year. So use an untested player for depth because you're going to lose anyway. And in the meantime, make sure you get that high draft pick, and at least then you've got yourself an option, for a possibility of some hope. Which right now this team's lost all hope. I think. I mean, for fan base wise, they've lost all hope. Jerry's still delusional and thinks they've got a shot. And Jason Witten's not going to quit on you. I mean, I totally understand that. But from a fan base standpoint, if you've got a brain in your head, they got no chance the rest of the year.
No, I agree completely. There's no way this team's going to the playoffs. But by the same token, tanking is one of those things that it's utterly frowned upon in sports. I mean, what the 76ers have done the past couple of years is a complete outlier. I mean, they basically said we're going to lose so much that we get all these high picks so we can accumulate this talent and then rise up. And look what it's gotten them. I mean, they're 1-18 right now, I think. So, tanking is a bad word to most athletes and to most general managers, and that's why I'll be interested to see how they play against Washington. I think the effort will be there. The question is whether the execution will be there. I don't worry so much about them not playing hard. I worry more about them perhaps just kind of phoning it in, so to speak, from an execution standpoint, which could be dangerous for a guy like Matt Castle. It could be dangerous for guys with the offensive skill. It could be dangerous for anybody who's on the field if they're not 100% attuned. And that's part, especially with the physicality in the NFL, it's hard to do what you're talking about without exponentially, in my opinion, increasing the risk for injury.
Okay. That being said, the other issue, I guess, Greg Hardy wasn't able to hand out Christmas gifts today because he was ill. Again, I go back to saying cut the guy. I'm not buying it. Every week it's something different with him. What do you know about that situation?
I know that he's ill. That's about all that I know.
That's what we're told anyway.
Yeah, that's what we're told anyway. I mean, I've seen a report, I think it was filed in the last few days, that the Cowboys are starting to get kind of sick of the routine. I mean, it seems like every week there's something with this guy. Sometimes it's a big thing, like the whole Bisaccia deal and the DeMarcus Lawrence scrape on the sideline. Sometimes it's a little thing like missing a day of practice due to an illness or something like that. I mean, you hear about drama queens. This guy's a drama king. It seems like no matter what he does and no matter where he goes, it seems to follow him. I think that's a headache that the Cowboys will be very, very happy to shed after this season is over. But I don't see them shedding him before the season ends, unless he does something, really egregious, frankly. And another reason that the Cowboys won't do that is because when you're thinking about free agency next year, when you're thinking about attracting players who don't have the issues that Greg Hardy has off the field, you don't want to give potential free agents the impression that you're just going to cut them just because they're a pain in the butt.
But see, I think that's a good message to send. Honestly, that's what Jimmy Johnson used to do.
Well, that's the difference between Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones.
I suppose. All right.
It's not the difference between Jimmy Johnson and Jason Garrett, because Garrett cut two guys for not observing the dress code before the Miami game. cut Corey White and Kristen Michael. Cut those two guys for not observing the dress code for the Miami game. So
See, there
that
you
was a
go.
classic Jimmy Johnson move, but it didn't really I think yield what the Cowboys were hoping for.
All right, so now we move on to the Redskins this weekend. Tell me what you know about these Redskins and how in the world. The one thing I do really enjoy about this season with the Redskins is that Jay Gruden has this team playing respectable football, and they don't even dress out RG3. And I never imagined a coach would be able to get away with such a thing after obviously he was Danny Snyder's favorite son.
Yeah, uh, they're an interesting team in that they're not very flashy at offense. Kirk Cousins does some nice things at the quarterback position. I don't think he's the long term solution at that position for them, frankly, but he's doing some
Really?
good things for them now. I don't think so. I mean, and it depends on what you surround him with. I mean, he's obviously got some skills. He's obviously got the ability to get the ball around the field. Does a pretty solid job of reading defenses, but he's not a quarterback that's going to lift you up. He's a quarterback that's going to be dependent upon what's around him. If they put some really good pieces around him, then I can see Kirk Cousins taking advantage of that. But as that team's constructed right now, I think there's a certain limit to where he can take them, and that's probably a playoff berth and nothing more. That said, they like to run the football quite a bit. They've got a couple of really good running backs. They got some speed that can stretch the field vertically into Sean Jackson and Pierre Garcon. They got a nice tight end in Jordan Reed. He's a real good quality tight end you don't hear a whole lot about. Solid offensive line. Their defense is kind of shaky at times. They have some difficulty defending the pass at times, but they seem to find a way to stay in most games and seem to find a way to win, especially lately. And that's the kind of that's the kind of discipline and the kind of focus you want from your team in the fourth quarter of games. I'm really interested to see if they can handle all of the pressure you would normally associate with a drive to win the division um, these last 5 games, because this is a relatively untested group of guys. Not very many guys are left over from the year they went to the postseason with RG3, so should be a very interesting ride, to say the least. Watching the Redskins, try to hold off the Giants and try to hold off the Eagles in this division.
Well, it's really funny though. You talk about them being an untested team, but the tested guys all stink this year.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
I mean, really, you're talking about
Yeah,
the
they do.
Giants. The Giants are horrible.
Hmm.
The Eagles are horrible. And all these guys that have better looking, flashier rosters, I guess, if you want to call that thing that Chip Kelly's put together a roster. I mean, still can't make sense of anything he's done this year. Um,
Yeah.
but the bottom line is, they look like the only team with any kind of momentum right now in the NFC East.
Yeah, and sometimes that's the way it works. I mean, I can remember a few years ago, we were looking at the Redskins. I mean, that Redskins team that RG3 took to the playoffs, it really wasn't a great team, in all honesty. It was a team that got on a roll and kind of rode RG3 to the postseason because of his innate ability to run the ball and keep the football moving up the field. But it wasn't a great team by any great shakes, and it wasn't a great division that year either, which kind of helped that situation too. So it's kind of the same thing this year. You've got a group of guys who seem to play well together, and sometimes chemistry can take the place of experience in these situations. And that looks like what's happening in Washington right now. The overall team chemistry, which was a little toxic, frankly, the last couple of years with RG3 and the coaching situation between Shanahan and Gruden, seems to have been replaced by a team that has a little more relative harmony, even though they've obviously given up some talent at the quarterback position.
All right, I got to ask you about the elephant in the room. All these, obviously, Johnny Manziel. Every time he turns, yes, that elephant, yes, Johnny Manziel back in the news. Benched. Obviously, the Cleveland Browns would rather play a rag mop than put Johnny Manziel in at
Yeah, they
quarterback.
would.
Uh, Obviously, he has zero future in Cleveland. And so all I see now on Twitter and social media is that, all right, this is Jerry's opportunity now. Manziel to Dallas. Um, Please talk me off a ledge. Because if he comes to Dallas, I quit. I'm not doing any more of these things. I'm not watching the Cowboys anymore. I'm done. What are your thoughts on all of that?
Uh,
Even as bad as their quarterback situation may be, I mean, if he can't play for the Cleveland Browns, who can he play for?
well, a few weeks ago he threw for 380 yards against Pittsburgh, and I think
Yeah, Matt
everybody thought
Castle
that
had
he
that
was.
kind of a day too.
Yeah, but I think that everybody thought he was taking a little upward tick there, and then all of a sudden the party video came out, and then Morchetti asked people to lie about it on his behalf. And, that's the reason Austin Davis is playing this weekend ahead of Johnny Manziel. It's not because Austin Davis is more talented than Johnny Manziel. It's because Johnny Manziel has completely lost the trust of that franchise. Period. There's no other explanation that you can provide that would be logical at this point. So I'm still not 100% convinced Cleveland will release him after the season because you just don't release first round picks after 2 years, although that's what they did with Brandon Whedon, so they do have a history of doing that. Um, as far as coming to Dallas, first of all, Dallas won't be the only team that will be interested in him because,
Seriously,
as seriously,
who would be
absolutely, because
who would be interested in him?
anybody who has a worse record than Dallas and needs a quarterback like San Francisco. Um, Anybody who has a quarterback issue would be interested in him because he has talent and
Does
because the
he
amount. I think he does. Now, I don't
really?
necessarily. Yeah, I think he has talent. I think he has good arm strength. I think he does have the ability to read defenses. I think his mobility gives him an added bonus to an offensive coordinator that knows how to use it. I don't think the offensive minds in Cleveland understand how to use him properly, to be perfectly honest with you.
I don't think
Frankly,
they
the
want to
perfect place
use
for
him.
him, the perfect place for him, frankly, would be Philadelphia. In all honesty, that would be the perfect system for Johnny Manziel. He was going to
He and
play for
Chip would
Oregon at one
deserve
point.
each other.
He that would be the perfect situation for him because I think Chip Kelly would know how to use this guy. But outside of that, um, sure, he could be in Dallas. And the reason would be very simple. Well, there'd be two simple reasons. Number one, he would draw attention to the franchise. And Jerry Jones loves attention. Sometimes I think more than winning, but he loves attention. And the other thing is, it's a low cost option. It's not like it's going to cost you a lot of money to bring him in here. It's going to cost you basically the veteran minimum to bring him in here. $500,000-600,000 a year, maybe a little bonus, just to sweeten the pot, just to give him an opportunity like a Tim Tebow got in New England a couple of years ago, just to show what he can do, show if he's grown up as a person, show if he's grown up as a player, and then if he hasn't, you cut him at the end of training camp. It's it's one of those situations where on the face of it, you say, yeah, I don't want any part of this guy. And frankly, if I were in Jerry Jones's shoes, I wouldn't want any part of this guy. But at the same time, Jerry Jones is a sucker for these kinds of things. And he's a sucker for thinking that these kinds of things could work at the end of the day. To
He's
me,
just a sucker in general. So
he'd be a sucker sometimes in general. He is the king of redemption in professional football, and if he thinks Johnny Manziel needs a little redemption, and he feels like Johnny Manziel can help him lift up the franchise in some way, um, then I think Jerry Jones could pull the trigger. Certainly, Johnny Manziel would love to be in Dallas. I mean, he grew up in Tyler, a couple hours away. Obviously, he probably watched a lot of Cowboys games growing up. Certainly he would love to be in Dallas and have that opportunity. And you could argue that it might not be a bad place for him to be because you've got a stronger head coach in Jason Garrett who's got more security. You've got a good quarterbacks coach in Wade Wilson, a good offensive coordinator in Scott Linehan, and you got Tony Romo in front of him who is a good professional who knows how to prepare and doesn't seem to mind imparting that knowledge onto other people. So I'm not a proponent of it. I'm of the mind that you let it be somebody else's problem, but it could happen. I could totally see
oh,
Jerry Jones doing it if he's out there on the market. I don't see him making a trade for Johnny Manziel, but I could see him making a
no,
play for him if he becomes a free agent.
yeah, no. I mean, I absolutely believe it could totally happen because that's the way Dallas does things. All right, anything that we've left out that we need to cover before we let you go?
Uh, nope. Just that this game, obviously Monday night. I think personally, I think the Cowboys go to Washington and they lose. Personally, I think that probably ends up eliminating them from the postseason unless everybody else in the NFC East decides to lose, um, which is certainly possible.
Could happen. Could
But
happen.
yeah, but I think that a loss on Monday night would most certainly signal to the Cowboys that they need to move Tony Romo to injured reserve and open up that spot to somebody else if they don't do it earlier. I'm like you. I'm a little surprised it hasn't happened yet. But one other thing to keep in mind is the Cowboys have activated Chaz Green off of their injury list, and he may be available to play soon, which gives them another option on the offensive line, and at least gives them a few games to see if Chaz Green can give them anything.
I will say I am looking forward to hearing all that John Gruden has to say about the Cowboys and the Redskins, both sides. He'll have plenty to talk about whether that game's any good or not.
That's true, and not just with the Cowboys, but obviously his brother being on the other sideline. It's
Yes.
always a very interesting evening when John gets to call one of Jay's games.
No question. All right, Matthew, what's coming up on the website?
Well, we'll be posting our 5 players to watch in our first and 10 preview here in the next couple of days. And then obviously Monday night we'll be keeping up with the game and getting ready for the contest after that, which I believe is the Green Bay game.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the draft.
No, but we'll start getting ready for that pretty soon too.
Okay. All right, Matthew. Great talking to you as always. Thanks for your time and have a great week.
All right, you too, Brian.
All right, that's Matthew Postins covering the Dallas Cowboys for Rattle and Hum Sports. You can see this and other spreecasts on Rattle and Hum Sports, the website. You can read all of Matthew's writings about the Cowboys at www.randhsports.com. Thanks very much for listening and watching, and we will talk to you next time.